Hey team, Matty Graham here from Exponential Performance Coaching. Welcome back to another Whiteboard Wednesday. Now this week I just want to follow on from last week's video about pedaling technique because I got a lot of feedback and questions from that as well. The first one was about this, not unclipping that one foot to pedal single leg because that changes, the biomechanics and the neuromuscular patterns that you're trying to actually train for technique training. And I've just got a few questions around that I want to clear up. So with our technique training, the thing we're trying to do is develop your neuromuscular system to fire in a certain sequence to reduce those dead spots in our pedal stroke. If we unclip one leg, we instantly change how we're sitting on the saddle. We change our hip angle. Then we also change the biomechanics of the pedal stroke. We no longer have anything pushing down, which then doesn't help the recovery or the up phase of the pedal stroke on the leg that we're training. This here, a lot of people think, well, that's a good thing because then we can start to recruit more muscles to pull through the bottom, pull up through that back phase of the pedal stroke. What actually often happens is you just activate more of your hip flexor muscles, and you sort of just overload your hip flexors and they sort of start to burn out or blow out, which is not really what we're trying to train. We really want to recruit more glutes and hamstrings into the pedal stroke, and if we're just recruiting more hip flexors, then it sort of defeats the purpose. Also, the firing pattern is different because of that unweighted pedal side and that hip angle and hip tilt. Our firing patterns is different. Okay, it can be different. So what we want to think about when we're doing our technique training is to try and keep it so that our neuromuscular patterns are as similar as possible to normal pedaling. So keeping that foot clipped in and just not pushing on it or just unemphasizing it. So the weight of your foot's still there to help the biomechanics, but you're not actually focusing on that side, just focusing on the other. So really remember working on ovals this way versus ovals that way with the push-pull. Another thing with this drill is if you're doing it, whether it be on the road or on the trainer, make sure you've got some resistance or a good gearing selection so you can really put in some effort to recruit those neuromuscular pathways. If you've just got a light gearing on or a light resistance if you're on the trainer and you're spinning at very high cadences, the time required to recruit those new neuromuscular pathways is too low, and often it's not a very effective way of doing it. So if you have a little bit of gearing on there, slightly more resistance, and you can actually really work that oval in that direction and really feel it on your feet. So just have a think about that. The other question I got was about some people had seen out there that by doing one-legged pedaling, you can actually get metabolic and cardiovascular training adaptations. Okay, so how are you meant to do that when you've just suggested that I don't unclip my foot? So these two things are very different. The research that's been done on the metabolic and cardiovascular improvements with one-legged pedaling is to do with if you just unclip one leg and just pedal with one leg, what you've automatically done is made twice as much blood available to that one leg, and what happens is you can actually produce more power, more blood's going to the leg, more oxygen's going there. The more blood rushing to that leg also creates more shear stress through the blood vessels, which is a very important component of developing more capillaries, so you get more blood vessels in the muscle. So this sort of training here isn't to do with technique, it's strictly to do with more blood going to the leg, and it works, is very effective, and there's a lot of research around this that shows that doing one-legged like intervals, so they're sort of usually about 4 minutes long, just on one leg, really driving it, all that blood rushing to that leg actually improves performance of two-legged cycling. But the key thing to think about when you're doing this type of training is that the research always uses a counterweighted pedal. So the pedal that's not clipped in they've usually got a weight that's around about 10 kgs on the opposite side to simulate that other leg pushing down, so the biomechanics of the single leg pedaling is similar to double leg pedaling. So don't just think that if you just take one foot out and pedal one leg you're going to get this result. They really focus on weighting that other side so that they can get the similar biomechanics, so that they're not blowing out the hip flexors, so they're actually able to get a similar biomechanical response. And as I said, you up that blood volume to the working leg, improve your training adaptations. So 2 very different things, and it's not that you should never do single leg pedaling, it's not the case, but you should be very selective about what you're doing, be a little bit smarter about what you're doing, think about what you're trying to achieve. Keep the questions coming so I can keep giving you the good information so you can train harder and smarter.